Hello there, my fellow project managers. Welcome to PM Anonymous for today. I hope you're doing great. Today, we're going to take some time out to talk about the PMO, the Project Management Office. Now, this is a term you've heard quite a bit. For those of you who have taken the PMP exam, you've heard this term quite a lot. The Project Management Office is that piece of the organization, that department, that group of people, that body that is responsible for leading the path, leading the way in project management, in helping those in the firm to understand how to manage projects, providing a way forward as far as best practices, rules, regulations, if you will, in some instances, regarding how stakeholder monies should be managed when being used on projects. So some PMOs take this extremely seriously. In fact, they send you for hours and hours of training. They require that you be certified in one certification or another. In the Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide, the PMBOK guide, there is mention made here of the different PMOs. So I want to spend some time just going over some of these PMOs with you. And this is in chapter 2 of the PMBOK guide. There are 3 PMO types talked about here. And the first PMO type that is talked about is known as the supportive PMO. When you think about a supportive PMO, it's almost as though they are just in support mode to help you get along as you request or as you require. In other words, if you do not ask anything from them, you're not going to get anything out of them, So they're pretty much there to consult with you, to supply you templates if you wish, but the degree of control that they provide is low. This is talked about on page 48. And then the next type of PMO is called a controlling PMO. So you might want to go to page 48 and look at the second bullet. It says they provide support, but the other thing about them is they require compliance. They want you to comply with some sort of guideline or requirement. There was a company I trained out in South Carolina. In fact, they're all around the USA, but they had a really strong PMO, and they had full staff on the PMO that would go around asking people if they were following the guidelines and asking them to show proof of the templates they were using to manage the projects, the schedule they were using to manage the projects, and many other bits and pieces such as that. So some PMOs they're really serious. They don't play games, and that is their job, to ensure that you are complying with the rules. It says adoption of project management framework or methodologies. They're going to comply with that, and if the PMs don't comply with that, there could be trouble. You could be called into a dim lit office to give an account of why you didn't. But in all seriousness, what they would do is encourage the PMs to follow that procedure, what they have set forth, and just steer them in the right direction. Also, the compliance may involve the use of specific templates, forms, and tools, and conformance to governance framework. So you hear me use the term rules loosely. I'm talking about the governance framework. So a lot of companies these days, they have a governance framework. They have a pattern in which you should manage projects of a particular nature, a particular size, a particular arm of the business. So those are the first 2 PMOs, okay? Supportive PMOs, controlling PMOs. And the final one is directive PMOs. It says directive PMOs take control of the projects by directly managing the projects. In other words, they bring in a project manager to take over, and their project manager who they have planted there becomes the project manager of that project. It says the PMO integrates data and information from organizational strategic projects and evaluates how higher level strategic objectives are being fulfilled. They're keeping their eye on stuff. It says the PMO is the natural liaison between the organization's portfolios, programs, projects, and the organizational measurement system. For example, the balanced scorecard. The project supported or administered by the PMO may not be related other than by being managed together. The specific form, function, and structure of a PMO are dependent upon the needs of the organization that it supports. So a lot of you have been through the rites of passage for PMP, and you've maybe even worked in a PMO. Maybe the time is coming for you to start a PMO. Has the noise gotten to you yet? Have the noise levels gotten to you as far as you setting up a PMO? Because trust me, if your organization sent you for training, they're looking to get a little something back from you being instrumental in a new PMO or a new structure or order or a new way of managing projects, more intentional, bigger payoff, and more efficient. So you may not see it coming just yet, but trust me, if they sent you for PMP training, the knock on the door is about to come. It says on page 49, a PMO may have the authority to act as an integral stakeholder and a key decision maker throughout the life of each project in order to keep it aligned with the business objectives. And then it says, the PMO may make recommendations, lead knowledge transfer, terminate projects, and take other actions as required. Again, it depends on the power of the PMO in that particular firm. It then says a primary function of a PMO is to support project managers in a variety of ways, which may include, but are not limited to, managing shared resources across all projects administered by the PMO. So assuming the PMO has got 20 different projects, they could call the shots. The PMO management could call the shots as far as how those resources are distributed on a priority case-by-case basis. You see, it says the PMO could also help in identifying and developing project management methodology, best practices, and standards. That is one of the hallmarks of the PMO. That's what a lot of people expect. Identify, develop project management methods, and so on. Next one is coaching, mentoring, training, and oversight. So PMs working in the firm, they could be trained, coached, and mentored within the PMO, or the PMO provides that forum for that to take place. It then says monitoring compliance with project management standards, policies, procedures, and templates by means of project audit. So they're going to get into your business. They're going to ask you to bring out those documents. They're going to look at your plans, your baselines. Now, they're probably going to be in on that right when it's happening. But beyond that, they're now going to get involved in the actual executing of the project, maybe looking at your work performance reports, whatever you're using and however you're using it, they could get involved in that. So it says developing and managing project policies, procedures, templates, and other shared documentation. In other words, organizational process assets and coordinating communication across projects. So these folks, the PMO, they are at the hub. And don't be mistaken, when you hear the term PMO, PMO could actually be talking about 2 people, 3, maybe even 1 person. In fact, in a particular company I was in, they would refer to 1 person as a PMO, though incorrectly, but they would see that 1 person as being their PMO in a smaller type of setting on a business by business unit case. Still here on the PMO, it says a project management office PMO is an organizational structure that standardizes the project-related governance processes and facilitates the sharing of resources, methodologies, tools, and techniques. The responsibility of a PMO can range from providing project management support functions to the direct management of 1 or more projects. That's when it gets a little bit nasty. It could get a little bit nasty. But there you are with the PMO, okay? So the next step after you've lived in the world of the PMBOK guide and you're getting clearer understanding of what the PMI are saying and you're now a PMP, you know what you need to be thinking of? The possibility of you setting up a PMO. So if you're asked to set up a PMO, what do you do? That's the question. I'm going to share with you a series of thoughts and ideas about what you can do if you have been asked to set up a PMO. The first thing you need to do is not to go scrambling for your book of forms or templates. No. The first thing you want to do is begin to think about those people who will support the efforts. A PMO is not built just by templates and tools. It's not. A PMO is built by the intentional thoughts, behaviors, and attitudes of people behind the PMO. There've got to be people behind your PMO. The question is, if you are meant to be spearheading the PMO, have you found your people? That is what I'll ask you first. Have you found your people? So first of all, identify the opportunity. Why do we need a PMO? Maybe someone comes to you in the firm, a senior manager, senior vice president, or maybe someone in the C-suite and says, hey, we've decided we're going to get a PMO and you're responsible. You first of all want to identify the reasoning, the rationale, what prompted the need. Now you might have identified that need on your own, but if anyone told you from on high that they need a PMO, you need to ask the question, oh, okay, that's interesting. Why do you say we need a PMO, or why the need? You need to understand the why behind the why. And that's going to help you better plan. That's going to help you better strategize. That's going to help you understand what kind of a PMO it's going to be. Sometimes it just needs to be a supportive PMO. Other times, you know that it's tending towards being directive. But you got to ask the question, the why. So identify the opportunity, identify reasons why across the board, not just in project management, but also in cross-functional disciplines. How will the PMO benefit those folks? Will it affect how they work? You want to identify the full opportunity across. Whether you're in a matrix firm, a functional firm, it doesn't matter. Identify the opportunity from the various perspectives, 360. Okay, secondly, you want to look for allies. Now, if a senior manager has approached you to ask for this, it's very possible that's an ally. Or perhaps they were just sent and they're not an ally. But if they are allies, that will be a nice place to begin networking. From you understanding you found an ally, ask that ally, who do you think could help or would have a positive interest in us achieving our aim in putting together PMO? You know why? Because in a lot of firms, people are resistant to PMOs. People hear about a PMO and they get all bent out of shape, thinking the PMO has come to ruin their lives and take over. Some people push against PMOs. It will amaze you. People think they're no good. Oh, we've already got certified in this or that. Why do we need a PMO? You know, I've seen people vehemently push against it and jubilate when the PMO comes crashing down. And that's why you need allies. Allies are going to help lift up the PMO. Allies are going to help support. They are going to be the legs that prop the PMO up. I trained a firm out in the Midwest, and it will amaze you. A lot of resistance regarding the PMO. So we had a number of folks who wanted the PMO, but there were also many people who said, yeah, we've done it before. We don't want a PMO. We're not going to do it. And at the end of the day, it took a lot of resistance. It's like bang your head against a brick wall trying to get through to these people. They just said, no, it won't work. We're engineers. You ever heard that one? We don't need a PMO. We know how to manage our work ourselves. We don't need any templates. That kind of resistance. So you got to be ready. How do you get past that? Allies. You're going to have allies, folks. You know, I'm not sure who is an ally in your firm, but they're there. You need to find them. Wherever they are, You need to bring them out of the woodworks, those allies, because those are the folks who are going to help you, who are going to help you push, to get some sensibility, some structure and order. And, in building a PMO, it's the mindset first. So a lot of people are not getting the mindset. The mindset is not them versus us or we versus them. No, that it's not. It's all of us working together. And even if people don't want to think like that, you as the PM, you have to. You have to get your mindset aligned. This is something that's going to help. That's why we're doing it. And in having that mindset, when people come at you with negativity, you're not going to return negative for negative. You're just going to stay the course and do what you need to do. So you need to find allies. It's so important. We call them champions in other firms. These allies are people who are going to champion the cause for you. Okay? Cannot overstate it. Next point, you want to introduce your stakeholders to the world of project management. So some people, they're really supportive about project management, but they don't really know the nuts and bolts and what makes it tick and hybridized project management and the agile side of the house versus the plan-driven side of the house, where that equilibrium exists, so to speak. They're not really aware. And for that reason, you need to begin to introduce them to the world of project management from your lens. Not from their lens, but from your lens. And they need to know all the possibilities, the various permutations of iterative, incremental, agile, plan-driven, fully plan-driven, all that stuff. You need to let them know about it. And you need to discuss options, because there are many options in delivery. You got to discuss delivery options, and that could vary from project to project. All right, so step 3, introduce stakeholders to the PM's world. Next, step 4, begin having lunch and learns regularly. You can have minor topics in project management, and this will better get them into the world of project management. Little sessions on the different flavors, the different delivery flavors, little sessions on the different knowledge areas and process groups and how this is implemented in the firm, so on and so forth. It all helps because you got to build your allies, you got to build your stakeholders. So as you're moving and you begin to gain traction and there's some movement happening in moving towards a PMO, you want to make sure these folks are aware of the language, of the mindset, of the PMBOK guide, methods. You want to let them know about that, okay? It just puts everyone on the same page, and it's part of making a firm foundation for your PMO. I'm going to stop at step 5 for today. I talked about the opportunity, but now you want to define the problem, the elephant in the room. No business unit manager wants to come out in firm X to say, oh, my department isn't doing a great job in project management. No, everyone wants to tell you that, oh, we're doing great, we're just fine. But we know they're not just fine. That's why we need to identify the problems. You could use an Ishikawa for this. So the big old fish head and then the different reasons. Maybe brainstorm with the team, put together an Ishikawa for this, dig deep to actually begin to unravel what are the real problems. Why do we need a PMO, or why do we need a revamped PMO? Sometimes it's not just a PMO. Sometimes you need to revamp the PMO. So, big questions as far as what kind of PMO do we need and so on. It's going to be answered by you defining the problem. So if you haven't defined a problem and you find yourself trying to set up a PMO, you're doing it wrong. If you have not had lunch and learns and training sessions, you've not introduced them to the PM's world, you have not looked for allies or you have none, and you have not thoroughly identified the opportunity, you're doing it wrong. So you need to back out, backtrack, and all this stuff you got to do. All right? In our next session, we'll advance and I'll share with you some more information about this, and we'll also be looking at a white paper from the Project Management Institute about setting up a PMO. So you don't want to miss it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I want to encourage you to do that. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon on another episode of PM Anonymous. Take care, and bye for now.